everyone, and welcome this special conversation between InvestMX and Strategic Development Group. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jeannette Goldsmith, Vice President of SDG, a leading firm in strategic site selection and incentives in the United States. Jeannette has over 25 years of experience helping companies to make critical decisions about where to invest and grow. Today, from a collaborative perspective, we will be discussing trends, methodologies, and Mexico and United States potential in the international landscape. Jeannette, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Great. So, Jeannette, the trade relationship between Mexico and the United States is one of the most dynamic in the world. We share just more than a border. We share supply chains, talents, culture, and a joint vision of the future. So, Jeannette, you have been in the site selection world for more than 2 decades. So, can you share with us how you got started in the field and why do you think this job is very important for us?
I actually started my career in economic development, working with an organization that focused on recruiting companies. That gave me a front row seat to the site selection process. I was supporting companies that were evaluating locations, assessing infrastructure, negotiating incentives. Over time, I realized how much I enjoyed the analytical side of the job, and that naturally led me into site selection, where I could combine my background in economic development with a more strategic approach to helping companies make location decisions.
So over these 2 decades, what are the facts that you can share us about the commercial relationship between Mexico and United States? What are these important facts that you've been noticed over these years?
Sure. So the key factors for a project really depend on the industry, but there are some that consistently rise to the top. Operating costs, like utilities, taxes, and labors, are always an important part of the equation. Speed to market is becoming more important. Clients are looking for sites that are ready to go or can be up and running quickly. Electric reliability and availability are crucial, especially for our data center clients with heavy power needs. Workforce is another one that always rises to the top, and this is looking at both the availability of a labor force as well as the skill sets. Finally, I'd say that clients are always thinking about the overall business climate. What kind of regulatory environment are they stepping into? Will they find long-term support in the communities that they're considering?
So, do you see a growing interest from your clients over this time?
Absolutely. We've definitely seen an uptick in interest, especially over the past couple of years. A lot of that is being driven by broader trends like nearshoring and supply chain diversification. Companies are looking to reduce their dependency on overseas production, and Mexico offers a lot of advantages. Lower labor costs, proximity to the United States, trade benefits that come with being a part of the USMCA. We're certainly seeing our clients do more of an evaluation when they're looking at North America of the U.S. versus Mexico.
So for the future, how do you see the big picture? It's positive from these coming years, or how is your perspective from now to the future of between the relationship about Mexico and the United States?
Certainly, in today's environment, there is a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty isn't good for business investment, capital investment. I think that there still remains a lot to be seen with regards to tariffs and what the tariffs will mean for companies that are considering capital investment in the U.S. or in Mexico. We will likely see some shuffling of supply chains, so supply chains that with a heavy emphasis on Asian markets are likely to shift back to the United States or back to Mexico. And certainly having the USMCA in place is helpful, but if there are changes to that, I think that there's a lot of risk in terms of really understanding what the future might hold.
Yeah. So over these years, you've been helping a lot of enterprises to make investments in growing. So if now in the present there is an enterprise that is pretending or trying to expand to Mexico, what do you think are the most critical things that you make emphasis, or what is the important things that now these enterprises should consider in order to expand to Mexico?
I think that companies that are looking at Mexico are looking for a location maybe that can offer lower labor costs, again, proximity to the U.S. market. And that's going to be very attractive for certain industries such as automotive and consumer goods. The U.S. still has a little bit of an edge when it comes to electric infrastructure available and electric reliability. I think those continue to be an advantage for the U.S. But for clients who are prioritizing speed to market and predictable operating environments, I think that Mexico and U.S. still are viable options.
Yeah, so I think SDG has developed a very clear methodology to support companies in these complex decisions. So could you tell us just a bit about what is about this methodology you already have developed over these years?
Sure. So our site selection process is all about alignment and clarity from the beginning. We work closely with our clients to confirm what really matters. Is it power capacity? Is it workforce? Is it overall cost of doing business, or something else entirely? We lay out the expectations and the timelines for everyone involved. Once we've nailed down the critical location criteria, we can cast a wide net using our network of economic development professionals to identify potential communities and sites that are going to check the right boxes. From there, it's all about additional analysis and decision support. We do field visits, we dig into physical and operating conditions, we evaluate labor and logistics, and on top of all of that, we use a weighted decision model to recommend the top contenders for our clients. We then get into incentive negotiations, which are an important part of the process. They tend to be an important part of the process after we have found the right location. And then finally, once a final site is chosen, we stay with our clients through launch. We don't just walk away after the deal is done. We stick around to make sure that they're set up for success.
So yeah, it's like kind of an integral service. You continue giving following process after the site selection. It's just not, from my understanding, there is a nice place that you can grow up. And I mean, after you choose that place, you continue giving an assessment to these enterprises, right?
We do, and we can help that client as they continue to grow and make expansions. We can continue to help them. One of the things that I am particularly excited about in our partnership with InvestMX is being able to help our clients more fully in Mexico with that operational components, being able to stand up a business and see that business gets up and running as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, so many people think that the relation between United States and Mexico are good to time invest depends of the current government. So what do you think about that? It is something important to consider, or you think that economic relationship between Mexico and Estados Unidos and United States depends more on other factors?
That's a really interesting question, and one that is fairly dynamic in today's environment. I think that what businesses value most is stability, and that's stability in government, but also stability in relationships. So when a company has developed a supply chain that spans U.S., Mexico, and Canada, they're going to perform at their best when that supply chain is operating smoothly and stable. So I think those types of relationships are just as important as good relationships between our governments.
Yeah, but can you tell us if you see a currently trend about site selection and the companies of your clients?
Sure. We're seeing a couple of different trends. Some of them we've already touched on, but the trend to nearshoring and reshoring has become much more prevalent in today's economy. So companies that have perhaps in years past diversified their supply chain to countries around the globe are seeing a need to bring those supply chains back closer to the market. So they're looking at Mexico in order to bring that supply chain back, whether they're looking because of supply chain disruptions related to COVID, whether that's tariffs. There's a variety of things that are really driving that trend. Another trend that we're seeing is around the availability of electric power. That's become a critical factor for a number of different industries, and one where we're spending a lot of time evaluating and really trying to understand as we do our due diligence on specific locations.
Yeah, you mentioned something very important, the COVID. So I want to ask you, after pandemics, do you see there is a breakthrough in the commercial relationship between both countries?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the pandemic really demonstrated how fragile global supply chains can be. And many companies realized that there is a need to bring their suppliers closer to home. And for companies that are manufacturing in Mexico and the U.S., really worked hard to identify suppliers that were closer to those markets. So I think the pandemic was a big wake-up call for a number of reasons.
Yeah. So, Jeannette, if you can share some of your expertise or provide an advice for those people that are really interested to start with this international economic growing, how can you share with them?
So my first piece of advice would be to find an expert who can help you. It is not it's not an easy task, but it's something that we at Strategic Development Group do every single day. And I would say that it's important to find help or a consulting firm that has international reach, that's going to be able to help you evaluate operations in the U.S. versus operations in Mexico versus operations in Asia. And I think after that, it's really important to use a methodical process when you're evaluating these opportunities to really understand what's most important. Make sure that you're evaluating your opportunities based on that criteria, and then let other criteria kind of rise to the top in terms of their importance. Don't be solely focused on real estate or solely focused on incentives. Make sure that you are placing weight on criteria at the right point in the process.
Thank you so much, Jeannette. This has been truly insightful conversation. We look forward to continue the stranges with this relationship and helping more companies to find their ideal locations and the ideal growing. So thank you so much for your time. And to everyone that joined us, thank you so much for watching. This content will be able in our LinkedIn pages, so feel free to share it and leave your questions or comments. Jeannette, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.